Bun the Ofsted Report. Good morning, welcome back to another video. You join me on the day that Keir Starmer has officially resigned as Prime Minister. And for those who are wondering, yes, it is Monday. Yes, I am at home. Yes, the school is open. And I have the day off today. So I went into school on a day that I don't usually work when Ofsted came in. And so I am taking that day back, as should be the case when things like that happen, because we expect it for staff, we allow it for staff. You know, if they come in, my Senko came in on the Wednesday because she doesn't usually work on Wednesdays, so she had another day off in lieu. And why should it be any different for head teachers? So I am in the gym early as possible because today is going to be hot and I want to make sure that I am not in that heat and training, as I so often am, because I didn't actually train yesterday just because by the time I got around to thinking about training it was too late and it was too hot. So I am getting on it today. We are doing the last lot of deadlift pauses, and then we've got a 12-minute AMRAP, which is 500-metre bike ride, 12 air squats, and 40 mountain climbers. I hate mountain climbers. There's one exercise that just it's just not made for me, and 40 just seems a bit excessive. So 12 rounds, or 12 minutes, as many rounds as possible. I reckon I'll end up doing about 3 rounds, but we'll see. Anyway, let me get on to my first lot of deadlifts. 3 sets of 5 at 65. Let's get the bar ready, because the bar isn't even ready yet. There is a potential positive that comes out of the whole Starmer resignation. And that is the fact that, I don't know if it's positive or negative, we might get yet another education secretary. It may be Bridget Phillipson out, and someone else comes in to take her spot. Obviously, it'll mean no more weird marketing campaigns. That's just, yeah, I don't know what this education team have done, because this is the weirdest, the way that they've tried to include influencers, the voice of the people, in so many of their campaigns. Has been nothing short of excruciating. But perhaps the next education secretary it's not about taking things, well, it is about taking things seriously, but perhaps they'll do more about listening to those in education, rather than skirting around the edges and listening to everyone else, but not listening to educators. And on that note, my topic for today, as you would have seen from the title of this video, is about the Ofsted Reports. And yes, we have had our Ofsted report in and we are very pleased with it. I will put an image up of the Nando scorecard so you can see we've got 5 areas that were expected and 2 that were strong. And to be fair, they were all areas that we had felt were so expected and strong. And so there were no surprises for us. But once you've got your report and once you've heard from other people who've had their reports, you suddenly realise how unfair this current Ofsted framework and the way they report outcomes is. Now, I understand the new framework, you have to tick every box, whether it's strong, standard, expected, standard, exceptional, and you find extra evidence. But if you're going to go for strong or expected, you have to be able to show all the evidence. Now, for many months now, people have been talking about how stupid, for want of a better term, it is that behaviour and attendance are hooked together. And I'm speaking on behalf of, well, not on behalf of, but I'm speaking, somebody said to me, why don't you need to do a video with as much passion about this as about your sports partnership? Interestingly, about the school sports partnership. So I went to TES Awards, and if you remember that video, I talked about someone called Alison Oliver, who was the head of youth sport, and she'd been involved in the schools partnership, and she'd made a comment about it being great that it was that the government had, or the DfE had published this information about what was happening during the holidays. And I said, no, Alison, it's not good. Who was I sat next to at the TES Award dinner but Alison Oliver? And it was a great conversation and a really interesting conversation. And obviously I wasn't, slating her on a previous video. I was just saying from a school perspective, it's not necessarily good that it's been done during half term or before the half term, before the holidays, because we still don't have any information. But it was good. I did tell her that. I said that. I didn't direct her to the video just in case. But it's good that I had a good conversation with her about her time working for what was the school's partnership back in the day, her take on what's happening now, and what they are kind of lobbying for in terms of the information that the government are given. So it's good to know that there's stuff going on behind the scenes. So we're being covered, guys, by some really influential individuals. So the Ofsted framework and the outcomes. I know a school who got strong standard, expected standard, and then needs attention. And their needs attention was for behaviour and attendance. Now, when you read their report, and this is someone, like I said, I know personally, somebody who's a follower, shout out to that person. When you read their report and you read what their behaviour is like in a school, and knowing that school personally, you think, yeah, fantastic, behaviour is brilliant. And then you know the story behind their attendance and you think, you know what, they're working towards it, because you know that sometimes our attendance can be off because we've got students who take holidays during term time, at the beginning of the term, especially or the academic year, and then it takes a while for it to catch up. They got needs attention because of their attendance, because it was below national. Now I understand that. If you're below national, fair enough. We were below national in our phonics. But we didn't get needs attention. We got expected because the other areas were fine. So I don't understand how a school can get needs attention for something like attendance when their behaviour is spot on. And I'm kind of, I'm actually feeling quite upset for them because it's an injustice. That's what it is. It's an injustice. And there's another school, somebody I met on the weekend as well, who works in a school who recently had their Ofsted, and they had needs attention for 3 areas. Now, one of the areas was something I didn't even know about. It was about curriculum and teaching, whatever. I haven't embedded them in my head, okay? So Ofsted's done, so I've kind of put out the headlines, you know what I mean? It's gone. But they got needs attention for curriculum, the area of curriculum. And the reason was because they didn't have a synthetics phonics program in place. Now, it's like, okay, fair enough, if it was a primary school, but this is a secondary school. Now, I obviously don't look into secondary Ofsted, the Ofsted is the Ofsted, and the framework is the framework for primary or secondary. But I didn't realise that secondary schools had to have a phonics program in place. Didn't know that. And so I can understand why phonics is important. Your children get to year 7, year 8, they still haven't got the fundamentals, the foundational. But I didn't realise that it was actually a thing that they had to have. It baffled me, it did. But it meant that they got needs attention. They got needs attention for something to do with 2 other areas as well. But again, it's like you've been downgraded because of one thing. And I get that it's not best fit anymore. It's a precise tick every box, make sure you've got every statement in place. But it seems so unfair. It seems so unfair that you are penalising schools that are doing great stuff. This other school that I was talking about, the primary school down the road from me, they're doing some fantastic stuff. The leaders are doing great stuff. The other areas of their school, fantastic. And they got downgraded because of attendance. Why is that the case? I don't understand. Because they're working on it. They can show the evidence that they're working on. They can show the evidence that they're making progress in the area, that they're making improvement. They can show the evidence. But no, at that precise moment in time, that's what the inspectors have to go by. And it just seems that, and for me, when I see that line of needs attention, it just makes your heart sink, because you can't explain that to a parent in a way that may not make them think, oh, this is a bad school. It's hard to be able to explain that to a prospective parent who's coming into reception to think, oh, okay, they just see that line needs attention. and they may not read into the detail, or they may not bother to have a conversation with the leaders to find out, okay, what exactly does that mean? Now, we're not expecting parents to do that level of investigation. I have one parent I don't know definitely would if we'd had that, because they're kind of that's the kind of person that they are. But it just seems so wrong. And this is something that's been said for ages, that behaviour and attendance should not be going together. And they've recently made some other changes. So their updates to the latest framework, or the tweaks that they're going to make, is that they are going to be looking at schools in context. So rather than just comparing my results with the rest of the country, they're going to be looking at, okay, find other schools in the same context. Again, it's being able to know exactly what schools they are and what context you're looking at. But at least they've realised that you can't compare my one form entry school in the middle of Greenwich with high levels of deprivation with a school out in Surrey with low levels of deprivation and have us on the same level footing. That doesn't make sense. So that at least they're making that change. But it still doesn't negate the fact that you've got schools who have been compared and so then have been downgraded. Because for me, it's like, okay, if you realise this, then what are you going to do about those schools that have already had their inspection? Because you could, I'm not saying they should re-inspect, but I'm saying, but you could then revise those results in view of. So you could, and it would be a big piece of work, but if they've got people in the DfE and in Ofsted that are able to make videos with Gemma Collins, then they've obviously got spare capacity to be able to, do a bit of analysis. If they take time to go back and say, okay, which schools needs attention? What do they get needs attention for? Were they compared favourably with the national, or was it detrimental to them? Let's have a look at that. So, and then those schools in themselves, those schools are the ones that will get changed in terms of the grade that they got. That's what I think should happen. And obviously, who am I? A lowly head teacher, but I think that's who you need to be listening to. That's who Ofsted, that's who the DfE needs to be listening to. They need to be listening to the views of the teacher. They need to see the impact it has on staff when those grades are given, because staff have worked their butts off. Leaders work so hard to try to make sure that everything is in place. And one very prominent, glaring, coloured needs attention can have such an impact on an individual's mental health. And you know that I'm all for mental health when it comes to supporting the mental health of school leaders. You know that is almost my bread and butter. That's what my PhD is about. That's I've become a counsellor because of that reason, because I want to be able to support head teachers from a therapeutic point of view with their mental health and help them to be able to be in a position where they can manage all of it. But you get these kind of outcomes that put pressure on the leaders to think, can I then do anything right? I try, I put things in place, I try to make sure that everything is as it should be. Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to be able to, and my heart goes out to those leaders who do have needs attention, because in majority of the cases, I know that it will not be at the expense of them having worked really hard to get their schools into a good place. And I guess the thing now is, what support are those schools going to be given to, one, support the leaders who are feeling demoralised, who are feeling what's the point, who are feeling this is an unfair system. And two, when you've got the schools who have got falling roles and therefore falling budgets, and therefore their budgets can only enable them to do so much. But there are certain initiatives that do cost money. And when you've got a budget that is already stretched and already being pinched, you have to be really careful about how you're spending that money. And so, no, it's not like a business where you speculate to accumulate. You can't do that in schools, because you speculate to accumulate, you will end up in an academy. Just saying. So yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. The system is wrong. And they listen a little bit, but they need to listen more. They need to listen to the impact. They need to listen to the stupidity of having these two things put together. Let's not have them. Let's not let attendance. Let's not have attendance as a thing. You know, we understood why behaviour was in there, absolutely detrimental, but attendance has got nothing to do with behaviour. The behaviour of children does not determine whether they're in school every day or not. That is not the case. And I think they need to understand that this is a false, I don't know what the word is, I'm just trying to come up with a posh word like false dichotomy. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but it's wrong. Basically, bottom line, it's wrong to have those two statements together. And then this is what you get. You get schools that get needs attention. When you read the report, and I've said this at the beginning and I'll say it again, when you read the report and you think, okay, this great, this is fantastic, they're doing some great stuff. And then you think this one paragraph, it's what it is, one paragraph they've written that's brought the whole area down. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. All kinds of wrong. But, I mean, Keir Starmer's resigned today. Andy Burnham is the only candidate so far that might be coming in. Says it all really, doesn't it? Ofsted's wrong, government's wrong. But, you know what? We go to work every day. We see the students. We see the impact that what we do has on the students. And that gives us hope. That gives us hope. And it's hard, and I'm not in that position, so the feeling isn't one that I can directly experience, but I can empathise. It's kind of like putting that report to one side and thinking, what do I have in front of me? What do I have in the here and now that I can control, that I know is in my capacity to be able to change with the resources that I have? And to use a Jamaican phrase, bun the Ofsted report. Let's get into some deadlifts, guys. Oh, dearie me, dearie me. 2 sets of 3. Let's get on with the first set. 2 sets of 3 at 68. Round 3. Ooh. Alexa, what's the temperature?
At the moment, it's 22 degrees Celsius. Today, you can expect a high of 30 degrees.
22 degrees, 11:15 a.m. I am done. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. Please stay safe in the sun. Wear lots of sunscreen, regardless of what your complexion is. Drink lots of water. Wear a sun hat. And have fun. See you in a week's time. Bye. Oh, and like, subscribe, comment, and all the rest of the stuff. Bye.